Hello everybody, this is Dave Riva, CCFA President, welcoming everyone to a fun Friday. It's October, which is a little bit of a shocker, but here we are, 100-degree weather and smoky skies. A couple of quick things to announce, so I did this right. Next Tuesday, which is going to be October 6th, there's a Board of Trustees meeting. Check your email for the Zoom address, and there might also be a password on that one now. I'm not really sure how that works, but you go through a waiting room anyway. And then the other thing, first Friday of every month, we try to do a happy hour. So later this afternoon, that'll be 5 o'clock, we'll set something up with Zoom, and the Zoom ID should be this 922-0439-1104. I'm probably on the road right then, so I'll be using my phone, which will be a new experience, but we'll see how it goes. All right, we have a couple of things to look at tonight. We'll get straight to it, but Dave Brown wanted to share a brief joke with us. Hello again, everybody. I'm talking tonight to a man who needs no introduction, Dave Brown, our chief negotiator and a longtime auto professor. You've been here 20 years?
21 years.
21, yeah.
1999.
Yeah, it's crazy, I think, for all of us to do the mental math and say, how did we get here? But it's had some good times, so here we are. All right, we got a couple of things to try to talk about. You, of course, being the chief negotiator, probably have all kinds of very interesting info on what's going on with negotiations. I don't want to steal your thunder, but is there anything you'd like to tell the crowd?
Well, I mean, it's an exciting time in many ways in negotiations. There's lots of moving parts, as you would expect. We have resolved a good number of issues that have been kind of dogging us for a long time. We are poised to eliminate the last of the .667 labs, which I'm excited about, and people have heard me talk about that for years now, I guess, but that's been something that we've had as a priority, catch us up with some of the other community colleges out there. We've resolved a good many issues with our friends in counseling, and there's been issues in that area for long enough that there's probably a good many folks that are tired of hearing about it. But the counselors have been tired of living that way, and the new leadership in that department seems to want to do some things differently and allow some new flexibility, so we're excited about that. We've got a little disagreement with the district globally on salary. We all understand this is not the time to be going after big salary increases, but we've been hopeful that we can at least maintain a non-declining rate of pay, and it looks like we will be able to do that. So we have a framework for a tentative agreement, and I expect that we'll see that in the coming weeks.
All right, and of course we won't hold you to it, but if you were a betting man, what are the odds of us finishing up the contract this fall?
I would bet 75%. So I'm a 3-1 in favor that we will settle it.
All right, very good. And I assume faculty can expect some communication from you a little more precisely?
I'm a little behind where I thought I would be as far as filling faculty in on the full details of a potential TA. We had a little bit of a hiccup, as you may have heard, over in the automotive area, where we began doing some in-person labs to try to get caught up with our in-progress grades that we've been giving since spring. And we did have a staff member come up with a positive test result for COVID-19. That person was symptomatic, went to the doctor, got a test, and unfortunately came back COVID positive. But so far, the rest of the staff and the students that we know of that have tested for COVID have come up negative, and so that's good news. And we're hopeful that that validates that, the various protocols and procedures we were doing have helped to contain the spread. So
yeah, well,
hopefully we'll be able to get back in there and get some more done.
I hope it all works out well. And like you just said, if nothing else, we're certainly learning how to eventually expand across campus if we come back in the summer or the fall or maybe even the spring. So again, hope it works out well.
Yeah.
The auto program is quite diverse. I know you guys do the heavy trucks, and way back when you had tanks and I don't know what else over there. What's the future look like? Gavin Newsom is saying no new cars in 2035 are going to be internal combustion engine. I've read that something like 3 times the actual sales price of a car. The car companies expect to take in repairs and parts and things like that. So as we move more towards auto, how's that going to affect citrus? How's that going to affect maybe California as a whole?
Man, that's an interesting topic and an interesting time. I mean, we're moving toward a European timetable for implementing a fully electric fleet. Of course, cars that are in service are not going to become banned. You're not going to be prevented from, at least under the framework that we see today, not going to be prevented from keeping your old cars that are internal combustion engines. And so I suspect there will be some late adopters who will hang on to their internal combustion powered stuff for a long time. Having said that, the writing's been on the wall about electrification and other changes to the auto industry. And one of the things that we try to be proactive in our department, we developed curriculum for an electrification, alternative fuel, and fuel cell vehicle program. And so we wrote a certificate program, 3 particular courses that would be sort of almost like what we would think of as being for folks who are either incumbent journeyman technicians or folks that have already completed one of our core programs. And you're right, we offer a full bumper-to-bumper automotive technology program. We also have medium and heavy truck technology. We have our blossoming stationary power generation, which has brought with it some new industry interest. And we also have a budding off-highway equipment, heavy equipment program. The difference between budding and blossoming is only that the off-highway is a little bit more of an infant program, whereas the stationary power generation has begun to grow some legs. So how does it change stuff at Citrus to be fully electrified? Well, we're going to have to continue to teach what we teach now and teach new stuff. And it's kind of hard to predict if by the time I retire, will we be fully invested in all electric all the time, or will we be not quite there yet? I suspect we'll be a little bit of both. We'll be a kind of a hodgepodge. And it's fun stuff because, this is an industry where we are both an art and a science. We have so much theory that we have to pour into people. I mean, folks that complete our full daytime 2-year program spend 61.5 units in the automotive area, and that's more than any other major on campus by far. And there isn't a whole lot of stuff that we can let go of and not teach to add in this new stuff that we need to teach. And so that means that there's going to be some folks who finish automotive and then come back for a little bit more, and they'll be 70, 80 units in. The good thing is a lot of our stuff on the major side is university transferable, and we have a relationship with Cal State LA, and we're growing our relationship with Cal Poly to take people over into either engineering or production technology programs. So that's exciting.
Yeah. And so do we have a lot of students going into the more STEM, true engineering?
We have quite a few, not necessarily. There are anecdotes I can give you about folks going into engineering, but there's more that do the Cal State Los Angeles route because they have a very well-developed production technology program. They have a whole department called Power, Energy, and Transportation. Cool. And they've done, over the last 20 years, they've dumped millions of dollars into that program, and they do ground-up design of things. It's really a fantastic route. One of our professors, in fact, Priscilla Englert, she's our newest full-time faculty member. She is an alumnus of that program, and she got a job as an engineer for a piston manufacturer for some years before moving into the teaching arena at the high school level. And so we're excited to have her come full circle and come back to us because she was a graduate of our program as well.
Very nice. All right, can't have one of these Friday afternoon things without talking about the new norm, COVID. We've chatted a little bit, but now that we've been in it for 6 months and you've experienced it, how do you see things as we go back to normal, assuming that happens? But what are you going to take with you from this experience?
Well, I can tell you there's some parts of normal that I don't think are ever coming back. I think social distancing is here to stay, and we're going to see seats farther apart and things like that. But on the professional side, I'm kind of excited by some of the development work that we've had to put into becoming de facto online instructors overnight, and bettering and perfecting what we're doing. But there's a lot of tools that we are now using that we didn't fully investigate before, that were available to us just as much as they are now. So there's a number of things in Canvas, the exam tools, et cetera, that are in Canvas that I'm going to continue to use. I think I like collecting routine homework and other assignments electronically. I don't think I mind that a bit, rather than carrying stacks of paper around.
Right.
And even augmenting, once we're back to in-person, and I don't know what in-person lecturing is going to look like in the foreseeable future, but to the extent that we can do something like what we're doing now, where we have sort of a hybridized model, where certain things we do face-to-face because they're a hands-on, skill-based thing. And I kind of mentioned that before. This is an industry that's both an art and a science. There's so much theory we have to ram down people's throats, but they also have to develop manual dexterity and things to perform tasks and be able to do those in a skillful and competent way. And so we'll always, in my particular side, we'll always have to have an in-person piece. But I think what we've been learning about the online tools can only make that better.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun. I mean, it's a change, and I'm not going to tell you I'm thrilled about sitting in front of a computer screen and talking to my students that way, and they're all a black rectangle with a name in it.
Right.
But there are aspects of the online experience that I think are going to be benefits going forward.
Yeah, totally agree with you with respect to the students, and I'm also finding that some of the meetings, and there's way too many meetings, of course, but seem to run a little more efficiently. That it's about sit down, and people have learned the manners, and communication works pretty well, and of course participation is a lot easier now too. So yeah, there are some good things going on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, even on the bargaining front, we're able to put language on the screen, share it in real time, and even make edits on the fly in ways that we couldn't do sharing paper copies of something. We highlight and make notes and mark things up and bring it back for next time. But now we're doing things a little bit more live and on the fly.
Yep.
So it's an interesting thing for us. In fact, the folks wonder if we're ever going to see people on campus again. Are they going to want to just teach online all the time?
Yeah.
But in some ways, it doesn't really matter, because there's no reason why, now that we've all become comfortable with Zoom and other technologies, that we can't have remote meetings or partially remote meetings of people face-to-face with another person who is remote.
Yep, totally agree with that too. And if we're talking about students, those students are going to shop around for what works for them. So we got an interesting future in front of us.
Yeah, most definitely.
All right, well, we've run a little longer than we shoot for, but I think that's fine. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we say goodnight?
Not really, just that everybody that has a chance and wants to properly social distance, you ought to get one of those things like I have in the background and get your stuff in 2 minutes.
All right. That sounds dangerous, but
it's hazardous. There's a difference between dangerous.
I'll try to remember that. All right, well, thanks for your time, and we'll chat later.
Right on. Thank you, Mr. President.
Hey, Dave, what have you heard lately?
So now I need a corny joke. You're going to have to start that one over. I'm going to have to think of it.